Hey guys, Jamie and Jeremy from Guildbrook Farm, and today we're going to talk to you guys about our solar system and living off grid, answer all your questions. So welcome to The Dirt. For those of you guys that are new to the channel, The Dirt is where we share a little bit about why we think what we think, why we do what we do, and today we're going to be answering your questions regarding living off grid and our solar system in particular. But before I get to that, I just want to do a call out to our friends up in Alaska. Many of you guys know that there was a 7.0 magnitude earthquake a couple days ago, and this has directly affected our friends Mindy and Charles and their two kids up in Alaska. Their channel is Life Goes North. I know that the natural gas that fuels their house, that is their main source of their heat for their house, was shut off because of the earthquake. And I believe that they've been sleeping in their car just because of the aftershocks. They're really having kind of a rough time up there. If you guys are interested in checking out what's going on with them, you can go over to their channel, Life Goes North. I'll leave a link down below, but definitely our thoughts are going out to them and everybody else affected up in Alaska with this earthquake and the ongoing continual aftershocks. All right, so now to get to your questions. Today I'm going to be asking the questions. Jeremy's going to be answering because the last two videos I've been answering. So,
and it's raining.
Yeah, it's raining.
And it's cold.
It might affect the audio a little bit.
Hopefully not.
But all right, so first question is, what do you do about garbage?
Garbage. So yeah, our old house, we had a garbage service, garbage pickup, and we paid it quarterly, and it was like $50 a quarter. Now we do not have that. So we try to buy things in biodegradable packages, like that we can burn. Cardboard and things, so we have less of garbage. We obviously compost as much as we can, so everything that's left then we usually take to a recycling center, and it's about a big contractor sized garbage bag a week, and we take that to a recycling center, and
if not every other week. It depends.
We generate a lot less garbage now, and we burn a lot more like cardboard and things like that. So
yeah, I would say it's about every other week that we have a bag, and every county has like the local dump, and you pay per bag, and it's about $1 per bag. So our garbage went from what? How much?
Yeah, I mean, even if we had to pay $1 per bag, and we're doing a bag a week, that's $52 a year. So that's less than 25% of what our old garbage costs were. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So to answer your question, we compost what we can, we burn what we can burn, and then anything that's left over after that, we just take to the dump. All right, next question is, you have a 5.2 kilowatt array and only use 4 to 6 kilowatts per day. You should be making 20 to 30 kilowatts every day.
Well, what we use and what we make are two different things. So yeah, we use about 4 to 6 kilowatt hours a day on an average day. Doing everything that we need to do. We don't really skimp anymore. We did it first when we first got the system because we were babying it after what we had gone through with the system we had when we first moved here. But yeah, during summer peak sun, we're generating 20 to 30 kilowatt hours. We're just not using it. And so where does the rest of that power go? Well, the batteries are charged, topped off by 9, 10 o'clock in the morning in the summer. And then during the day, as we're doing things, we're running direct solar. So there's plenty more capacity that we're not taking advantage of yet. And I think probably one thing we're going to do when we get all this stuff moved up the hill to where the house will be, we might just use a dump load and put in a hot water heater as a primary, and then sort of a tankless as a secondary. So I don't know, I haven't figured that out quite yet, but we have plenty of power to do a dump load, and we also have the capacity to run a direct solar water pump, mini splits. We do have the capacity, we just aren't using it yet. So
I know someone's going to ask this, so what about selling it back to the electric company, or making money off of it?
Yeah, I don't want to get in bed with the power company. I've seen too many of those agreements, and while it does afford you the convenience of having grid power at little to no cost. We don't need it, and we don't necessarily want to provide easements onto our property for a power company to come and spray all the poisons that they've been spraying along the lines, killing all the trees like they did last year. I don't like that, so I really don't want to be involved with the power company if I don't have to, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. Everything we have works well, and I just really, maybe I'll change my mind at some point, but right now grid tied does not look to be something we're going to do at this point.
Next question is about your panels. Are they mono or polycrystalline?
Oh, they are monocrystalline panels, just because they're a little bit more efficient than polycrystalline, and that happened to be the panels that the cost per watt when I was doing all of the research and speccing the voltage of the panels, and they were monocrystalline, and I liked the color of them. They were black, and they didn't have all the little grid lines that you could see, so that's
I like the black ones better.
It just
too.
ended up being that they were mono, but yeah, monocrystalline.
And what about, do you have a shade problem?
Not in the summer, but yeah, right now we do have a shade problem, and I was concerned about this when we were doing the install, because I didn't know where we would be able to get sun this time of year. We're in November, end of November. This is December 1st. So we're getting into the sun at its lowest angle of the year. And I wish I would have moved them over maybe 30 feet that way.
Well, for those of you guys that are new to the channel, we did have, when we first moved here, there was a handful of solar panels up on top of the ridge where we're going to be building our house, which gets the most sun.
Right.
And we were having all kinds of issues with the distance between the solar panels and our battery shed. And so we made an attempt when we built this new system. We temporarily put them down here in a sunny spot in the summertime, in the best spot in the yard for the summertime, to have them closer to our battery shed. But being down here in this area in the wintertime, it doesn't get the best sun. This was great for the summer, but now that we are in wintertime, there's not a lot of sun down here.
Right now we get a couple hours of full sun a day, an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, just because of the way we're down on sort of the north side of a ridge. This trailer is, and so the sun doesn't get quite high enough to get over the ridge and the treetops. We have 100-foot pine trees that the sun has to peek through, but we have enough panels that the light that it does get, we get just enough power, and on some days we don't. But yes, to answer the question, there is a shade problem, and
that won't be remedied till we move.
Yeah, it won't be remedied till we move, but once we're up on the hill, that will be a non-issue. We'll get constant sun. So just one of them things. I mean, I'm just glad I built the array big enough to accommodate that. So
the next kind of question is sort of a follow-up to that. I'm going to jump around a little bit on these questions, but how often do you have to run the generator now, especially if there is a shade problem?
Lately, now, like I said, now that we're in the winter time of the year, so the sun is the lowest it's going to, well, almost the lowest that it's going to be for the season. And we've had a lot of very cloudy, overcast, rainy days like today.
Pretty much since July.
Yeah. If we have a 3-day stretch of no sun, I'm running the generator a couple times a day for about 20 minutes each, just to keep the batteries topped off. I don't like to see them get below 80%. And so, plus, now that I have the battery shed insulated so well, running that generator, I can only run it about 20 minutes or it starts getting real warm in there. So it's one of those, you don't want your batteries to get frozen or cold. So I insulated it to have the generator in there, so if they got down to be too cold, I could run that generator for a little while and it would insulate it, and then or it would heat it, and that insulation would keep it warmed up for quite a while. So it's kind of a balancing act. It's our first winter with this new system, and I'm learning what best practices. So far it's working okay. It's just, you know, a little inconvenient here and there, but I run the generator once a day on cloudy days. Now, the other thing that I've noticed, which is interesting, is even though on a bright cloudless, sunny day, we only get maybe 1 or 2 hours of sun, like I said. I noticed that on days like today, where it's completely overcast and the light is diffused by the clouds, I'm generating more power than on a sunny day.
That's really strange.
It's really strange. I guess it's just more available ambient light, but I was looking
we're looking at the panels now over here, and you can see that, I mean, there's light hitting the panels,
like
even though it's raining.
It was nice and sunny, and even when the sun was hitting the panels, I think I was getting like 14 amps it was pushing in, which wasn't very much, but it was early morning. And then the day before that, it was super cloudy, and I was getting like 18 amps, but it was midday. So I don't know, it's consistent, it works. I know that in direct sun in the summer we're getting like 40-ish amps, and so the batteries our battery bank holds 402 amp hours, and so far it's working. It all depends on where your panels are, and like I said, when we move them up the hill, they're going to be in direct sun for most of the day, so we should have no problems.
So now that because we are running the generator a lot more, now that we're heading into winter time, we didn't run it at all in the summer, but now that we're running it more in the fall and in the winter, how much fuel are you using in both diesel and propane? And we need to point out that with the propane, we do have a backup propane heater in the house that we've been running. Well, at least the pilot light runs all the time, so if it drops too cold in the house, like if the wood stove burns out or something, then that thing will kick on as a backup heat source, so we are running that now in the winter.
Yeah, and we did not run that last year. So when we first moved here last year, we went through quite a bit of propane because we cook with it and we heat our water with it, but we did not use it to heat the house with it last year. And so I had a baseline of what I expected to spend on propane. Last year we spent quite a bit on diesel because we were running the generator all the time, because our solar system just wouldn't, even to run the water we had to turn on the generator. So obviously after we put in the new system, we didn't have to run the generator at all during the summer. And now that I'm running it maybe 20 minutes a day or 40 minutes a day, so far I've used, I don't know, maybe 10 gallons of diesel. Whereas last year we were using, well, probably 2-3 gallons a day. So it's significantly less fuel used, and again, we're just sort of in this middle ground area of, we're not going to do much to kind of make any of this more efficient, even though we could, just because of the time. It doesn't make sense time wise when we need to be spending the time up the hill getting all that done. So
right. And so now with our propane, well, how much are we spending on that? Because we use it for fuel for the house.
Well, now that we're using it to also heat
the house a little bit as a backup.
I think we're going through 2 to 3 of those little gas grill size 20 pounders a month. We have a real good source of propane right now, so in terms of cost, so it's like $12 to refill one of those, which is a good price. So it's not too bad. Certainly less expensive than where we used to live to heat and cook and heat water and all those things.
And again, all these things will continue to be refined as we start building the house and we put in our systems up there. All right, so the next question is about the batteries. Are you satisfied with those Simpliphi lithium batteries? I'm going to say especially due to the cost, because they are pretty pricey. And how do they perform in the cold?
So far they've been perfect. I'm super impressed with how these things have performed. In the cold, there's been a non-issue.
Because of the way you insulated the shed? And
well, the shed is insulated. There's a battery management system built into each battery. The charge controllers have a battery temperature sensor. The inverter and charger has a battery temperature sensor, so it kind of manages all that. If it gets down to 30 degrees, it knows how much power to put in at what rate, and I guess your ideal charging temperature is about 77 degrees Fahrenheit. It just manages it all, and we have not had one issue, knock on wood.
Of course, we haven't really gotten into really cold temperatures yet either.
No, but the power it produces, it does exactly what it advertises. They're great batteries. And that's kind of what my goal was. Even though I knew they were pretty pricey, I just wanted a zero maintenance type of situation, and I didn't want to have to be tinkering with battery monitors and battery management and equalizing and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to have that kind of time over the next coming months and a couple years, really. So I wanted to make it as foolproof as I could. Cross my fingers. So far it's paid off because I haven't had to do one thing since we installed it.
And the other thing too is that these are in a temporary shed, which we are temporarily insulating. All this stuff is, kind of patchwork, trying to fix everything on the fly here and make it work until we can get into the house. So things will be a lot better when they actually have a home, probably in our basement.
It'll be in the basement in a dedicated area that is temperature controlled and climate controlled. And
that which leads me to the next question. What are you doing about climate control in the new house?
I have not 100% decided yet, but definitely a wood stove for most of the heat, and as a backup I'm leaning towards a multi-zone mini split system that I can run direct solar or off the battery bank with a transfer switch that can maybe run inverted. I don't know, I have to figure that out. But Hotspot, I think it is, has a mini split system now that runs 48 volt direct solar off of about 6 panels. So in the summer when the sun's out and it's hot, you're running your air conditioning directly off solar and no batteries and no inverter. I love that. And in the winter you can run it as it's a heat pump. It's a mini split, so you can heat as a backup. I don't know if that'll be enough in the winter as a backup heat source, and if it's not, then we'll probably do something like a small propane heater like we have in here, because it works really well.
Even turning on the oven, I mean, just because of the size of this house, 600 square feet, I mean, it heats up the whole house just, baking bread.
But I think the right sized wood stove will heat quite well, and I think having a multi-zone mini split is primarily for cooling in the summer, and the ability to run it direct solar will be sweet.
All right, so the next couple questions are sort of all over. They're not really they don't really go together. But do you have a hill above the build site that you can use to gravity feed water?
No. The site where we originally were going to build is down below a hilltop, and I was going to do some sort of gravity feed system there, and that's where we had issues with trying to get equipment in and possibly finding water, and that was before we decided we're going to build on top of the hill. So on top of the hill there's no, you could put a water tower up there if you wanted, but probably what we're going to do is some sort of a hybrid. It's not going to be gravity fed, but there may be a cistern storage type situation up there, because we will be kind of at the top, the highest point of our property.
Well, we would be able to gravity feed down to this area.
Yeah, we could gravity feed down to here. We could take this trailer out, we could put a barn here or a shop or something, and then gravity feed water, and we could run power down here. But at the house would not be gravity fed.
What about adding wind and hydro? Do you plan on doing that?
Originally I thought, well, hydro no, because we don't have any sort of constant running water with enough flow or force to push a hydro. Wind, originally when we first moved here I thought this would be a really great spot for wind, and since then I've changed my mind because it's so inconsistent.
You have?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, because, well, last winter was very windy.
It was. All
through the winter. But comparing that to the summer and the overall, like how much wind you get as an average all year long versus the cost and stuff you have to do to set up a windmill, it's just not worth it compared to solar in our situation, cost per watt wise. It's so much cheaper to add panels and just expand your capacity that way, and you don't have to worry about the wind blowing or not blowing. And as I said, even with just ambient light on a cloudy day, we're producing enough power now. So I would go adding more panels.
Well, that was the next question. Are you going to add more panels? If so,
Yes.
how many? And
Well, yeah, the way we designed our array right now, we have 18 290 watt panels, and it's a split array, so I have 2 charge controllers and 2 sets of 9 panels. And I designed it that way so that we could add an additional 6 panels to each array without having to change anything else in the configuration of the charge controllers and whatnot. And then beyond that, I can add another set of 6 panels that are dedicated to the mini splits, and maybe more panels if we do a direct solar water pumping situation. So yeah, there will be multiple arrays added for specific purposes in the future. But our overall general purpose electrical needs, like lights and refrigerator and things like that, the array we have right now powers those just fine.
it does. And I even get to run a crock pot.
And a vacuum cleaner, and yeah, the crock pot draws a couple amps, and it sits and runs 8 hours a day sometimes. So when we're not running a wood stove.
If I'm gone or something. I know, a lot of people want to know about the wood stove. You know, why don't you just use the wood stove? Well, wood stove's great when it's really cold and you have that thing cranked and you can put something on there and have it slow cook all day. But, you know, if you let your fire burn out during the day, I mean, temperatures around here.
Right now it's 50.
It's about 50 degrees. We do have a little fire just because it's damp, but it's, you know, you don't really need a fire going, and definitely not a hot one to keep a slow cooker running all day, or at least to have something slow cooking on the wood stove all day. So it's really nice having an actual slow cooker.
Yeah,
for dinner.
She dug out that crock pot, and I was like, oh, we'll see how this works. It works like it perfectly.
Are you going to add a solar tracker with your solar panels?
No, originally I wanted to because I thought it would be cool. The cost to buy or even build your own solar tracker just doesn't make sense compared to the cost of adding additional panels in terms of cost per watt. If we had a space constraint situation where we could only fit so many panels in a certain space, that possibly would be an issue. But we have enough room to add pretty much all the panels we would want to add to accommodate our electrical needs up there. And even if we did not, it would probably make more sense to create 2 separate arrays, one facing more east and one facing more west, so you could get morning sun and afternoon sun, and have all of that fixed and not messing with a tracker. It just doesn't make sense financially for us, in my opinion. Just add panels.
Just add panels. So what did you do with your old system? Again, we had a few old batteries and some old handmade panels, and I think 2 of store-bought panels from the old system, and then we went and did a DIY install for all of our new system, and we actually have a playlist on that if you guys are interested in watching how we did that step by step. But what did you do with the old system? People want to know.
The old system was a 12 volt system with a 12 volt inverter and a bunch of 6 volt batteries that had come out of a cell tower. When I pulled that out of the old system, I rewired all the batteries to be 24 volt, and I had it running this DC freezer because this is a 24 volt freezer.
The Sun Dancer. We have a video on that too.
Yeah, and it worked for about 2 or 3 months, and that was mid-summer, so right in the heat, and it just barely worked. Those batteries were on their last leg. They were shot.
They were, what, 7 years old?
Yeah.
I think they were bought used at 5 years old. So.
Yeah, and so we were able to sell those batteries to a recycler who pays per pound for the lead, and then he reconditions them and resells them. I still have the inverter and the charge controller and all that, and I still have those 2 commercial panels that are like little 100-watt panels, and then we just got rid of the homemade ones that were made out of big screen doors.
Yeah, the glass was cracked on them.
Yeah, they were broken and just torn apart, but I have a bunch of the components, so I can use them for small projects, like if we put together a shop or an equipment shed or something, we need to run lights. I can build a small solar system for those, like just task specific little system. So other than that, yeah, it's all in pieces. We just replaced it all.
And I think the last question here is about the DC freezer, the Sundancer. It is sitting here on our porch because we don't have room in our 600 square foot house. There's like no room to turn around in there. So how does this operate in the winter? How does it work for you with it sitting outside?
Well, this is our first winter with it. So far it's doing really well. If it gets down to, I know it's going to get down to freezing at night or during the day, I just turn it off. Because I mean, you can shut it off and let it sit there for a couple days and it's not going to thaw out as long as you don't open it. It's very well insulated. It's very quiet. It runs super efficiently. It says, I can't remember if it was like 40 amp hours a day, 24-hour period, or less than that. All I know is it's really, you can't tell it's running. When I look at my meters in the battery shed, you can't tell that it's drawing any power at all. And so we have it running. Our solar system is 48 volt. This is a 24 volt freezer. So I have it run through a DC step down converter. So it goes from 48 volts to 24 volts. So it's running direct DC, no inverter. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got this.
I would really recommend it as an off-grid solution for a freezer. So far, I've been super impressed with it. It is pricey, but I think you make your money back over time saving that much in power and electricity use.
And finally, the last question is, do you wish you would have done anything different with your solar in hindsight?
So far, let's see. Yes, I would have located the panels 50 feet that way because that's where the sun hits this time of year. But you know, you don't know that until you get to that time of year. And I probably would have built the racks to be at the median instead of tilted down. I intended to be able
for
to,
summer.
Right now they're angled for summer sun, and then in the winter you're supposed to, lean them up. I would have just made them fixed at the midpoint between summer and winter and just called it a day. But I wanted to be able to adjust them like we were our old panels. All that hassle you don't need to mess with if you just have enough panels. And panels are cheap enough. If the difference between the low angle in the summer and the high angle in the winter, adding another 3 panels kind of would just equalize that, and save you from ever having to touch it again. So this just lessons you learn. That's the only thing I would change. Fix the array angle and have it moved over. But again, it's all just temporary.
Or have it adjustable, because we threw ours up on pallets, again, temporary solution.
We just built racks out of pallets, but it works fine.
Yeah.
It's just the little tweaks that I would do differently. I can't think of anything else. Let's see.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna ask some questions preemptively. So what about the pipes and the pressure tank? We moved that. We had a lot of issues last year with the pipes freezing, with the propane tank freezing, or the propane tank, with the pressure tank freezing. We had it down by our spring. We had since moved it up here. We covered it with the pig shelter and insulated it. Put a light in there that's on a switch for, when it drops down below, what was it, 35 degrees or 32?
35. It's 35. A thermostatic switch.
So it kicks on a chicken heat lamp, actually.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a high wattage bulb in it. It has like a 75 watt bulb in there that's just enough to heat the inside of that shelter.
So how's all that working?
So far it's worked great. I've come out here a couple nights and seen that light on. My biggest concern, we got the battery shed insulated, so it's good. It keeps that at a good temperature. The pressure tank and all of the plumbing up here is now insulated with the pig shelter, and it seems to be staying good. I'm a little concerned about the hot water heater because it's outside, because it's vented. It has to vent outside, but it's in a little insulated enclosure, and that's where we had an issue last year with the water freezing
twice,
because inside of that water heater it's all copper coil, and you don't want water freezing in copper. So like at night, I'll turn the hot water on and heat up that whole little shed to where it's steaming, and then just let it set. But I'm going to put another one of those thermostatic switches inside there with a heat lamp, and I think we'll be okay. It's just anytime you live in a mobile home and you are dealing with mobile home construction in the winter, you're going to deal with frozen pipe issues, even in the south, I think. So
yeah, we hope that, you know, in living through this, we can see all the problems that are cropping up due to sort of patch and fix situations, and we're going to try and offset that as much as we can with the new home, you know, the new house, so that we don't have as many, if any, issues.
Yeah, well, with the house, it'll be actual conventional construction with proper construction practices.
Yeah. So hopefully, you know, this might be maybe the last year we have to deal with.
I hope, man.
Some of these inconveniences.
I hope so.
But we're just, like I said, we hasn't really gotten too cold. I mean, we've gotten into the 20s here. Which
it's gotten below freezing for a couple solid days in a row, but not yet like it was last year, where we had a week straight of in the teens and everything was frozen.
Yeah.
I'm kind of dreading that, but I think we'll be able to keep ahead of it. We really didn't know what we were getting into last year. We just kind of went in full on and was like, everything happened. So this year, now that we have a year under our belt, I think.
Well, yeah, like we know that, you know, if we're going to get really cold, if it's going to get cold at night, you know, we can drain the hot water heater.
Yeah, we can just open the valve and drain the hot water heater, and so that there isn't water in there to expand when it freezes and crack. And then in the morning, we can slowly turn that on and get water going through it. So
that just comes with experience. You just got to go through it a couple times. Lesson learned. But that's all the questions that I have, unless you can think of any.
That's all I have. It's just a quick. Well, it was going to be a quick video, but I'm kind of a windbag when I have too much coffee.
Well, that's all we have for you today. Hopefully we answered all your questions. If you guys have any other questions for future dirt videos, feel free to leave them down below. And we're saving all the questions. We're going to theme them and address them as they come up. I think we've pretty much gone through the bulk of the questions. You know, everything else is just sort of like one-off questions here and there, or something that we've addressed in other videos and whatnot. We try to answer those ones in the actual comments. But as far as dirt videos going forward, we don't really have like a whole lot of questions for a whole entire video. I don't know.
We may just kind of give it a break until they build back up, and then we'll do one. Instead of doing one every week, we'll do one whenever we have the questions to answer.
Maybe once a month or something like that. And I know we were talking about doing a dirt video, you know, once we get into the build of the house, like not just the clearing part, but the actual build. You know, just kind of discussing, you know, what our plans are, how they're changing, and you know, as those things are developing, just our thoughts behind it. So you might start seeing dirt videos on that too, as things start going. Hopefully we start building soon, but it's not going to happen within the next couple months for sure. I mean, we're heading into Christmas now and winter, and things are actually going to slow down before they start picking back up again. So I imagine you're going to see that on our channel too.
Yeah, a lot of our content is outside, and when it's crappy outside, there's not much content. So might be slim pickings for the next month or so, but
we'll pick back up.
Yeah,
and we'll share with you guys what's going on. So that's about it. Again, check out Life Goes North, see what they're doing up there and how they're dealing with the earthquake, 7.0 earthquake up in Alaska, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Cheers, guys.